fantastic to see so many people back at the Humphrey Rooms after the pandemic. Really feels like old times. I'm Nick Hewitt. I'm the chair of the local astronomy section of the Natural History Society. I'm just going to do quick health and safety things. If there's any major problems, the two doors, exit doors, are behind me, either side, and they're open. Always helps. The loo is through the double doors and immediately into the right there, and the ladies are in the top corner. The lady, two ladies, three ladies. Top right. So fantastic. Without anything else to say, really, I'm going to hand over to Jeremy for the rest of the morning.
Thank you very much, Nick, and I'd like to extend my warm welcome to everybody. It's a really great turnout. Absolutely delighted. I know a lot of you have travelled a long way. The longest so far, I think, is Des at an 8-hour journey from Edinburgh. I know we have people that have also, well, Robin's travelled from Cumbria. Anybody further distant than that? Andy's had a long journey, 9.5 hours. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming. And not ideal with the rail strikes, but so many people have said to me already this morning that they just wanted to come. They wanted to have a meeting because it's now, would you believe, 5 years since we had a variable star section meeting, the one we held in Warwick, jointly with the area VSO. We had planned one in 2020. We planned it here, and it is wonderful to be back at the Humphrey Rooms. For me, Nick, this is like coming home. I've been here many times in the past, and it has a particularly welcoming feel to it. So thank you to you and your team. We'll do some thanks at the end, of course, but really appreciate your support for the variable star section. So we've got a full programme today, run through that in a moment. But before I do that, I want to spend a few minutes sort of updating some of the things that have happened since we would have last met in 2020. Some of the milestones that have been achieved, some of the objects that people have observed, and what the section is up to at the moment. So let's start off by remembering two people that were key to the section that are no longer with us. Sadly, Ian Miller passed away in late 2020, and Janet Simpson in 2022. For those of you that knew Ian and Janet, you will have known them to be very, very modest, very pleasant and engaging people, and they're sadly missed. Ian was a great observer, particularly CCD photometry of variable stars from his observatory in the Gower Peninsula. And Janet, for many years, I think more than 10 years, she was the editor of the variable star section circular. So she was on the section committee of the variable star section. So sorry to see them gone, but I wanted to remember them this morning. We've had some highlights in the last few years. So it's now 2 years ago that two of our illustrious members were awarded significant medals by the association. So Roger, my predecessor, was awarded the Merlin Medal, and Gary was awarded the Walter Goodacre Medal. This happened during lockdown. And hence I asked them to send me a photograph of them with the medal and the certificate at that time. So congratulations once again to Gary and to Roger. Another person that's won a medal, a different kind of medal, the British Empire Medal, you might have heard very recently, actually in King Charles's first birthday awards list, Guy Hurst, who is also a section officer. He's the editor of the Astronomer magazine, was awarded the British Empire Medal. So congratulations to Guy. Sadly, Guy can't make it today. It's a little bit too far for him to travel. I spoke to him by phone a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted to send his best wishes and regards to everybody. We've had some observing milestones. So John Toon passed his 200,000 visual observations. There he is. Thank you, John. So congratulations to him, and congratulations to Sean. Both Sean and John will be speaking later. So Sean Albrighton passed his 100k target earlier this year during the spring. Interestingly, they both observed their milestone observation in Corona Borealis. So John was on T Corona Borealis, which is much in the news, and Sean was on R Corona Borealis. So
I would add that you selected that particular star.
I did, yes. One dear to my heart. So yep. So
can I ask, does that mean that was the star you were observing
at the 100,000? Correct.
Not all of them
were. No. At that milestone. That was the milestone observation. Yeah. Now, several of those people appear in this photograph. I couldn't resist showing. Sadly, some people here are no longer with us. But yeah, we do have several people here today. He looks younger now, doesn't he?
He does look younger.
So what's happened in with the variable stars themselves? Well, quite a bit has been in the news. And when I say the news, I don't mean just the variable star section of the BAA news. I mean the news, the BBC news, the Times news, whatever news. So the one was the great dimming of Betelgeuse. That started just before Christmas 2019 and continued through the first part of 2020. And for those that were out in the winter months of early 2012, or even around Christmas 2019, I took family members out and showed them the night sky. And you could really see that Orion looked different in that Betelgeuse was so much fainter. And that captured a lot of people's imagination. It made it to the news, perhaps for the wrong reason, which was that people were speculating it was about to go supernova, which was complete nonsense. But nonetheless, it got a lot of people interested in astronomy more broadly. And both Chris Lloyd and Mark Kidger, who will be speaking later, have done a lot of analysis on the light curve of Betelgeuse and have published it in a BAA publication. So that was something that was noteworthy. You can see the deep dip in the middle of the light curve there, early 2020, and it's since recovered. It's on a roughly 400-day cycle, and at the end of the last apparition before it went behind the sun, it was at its brightest as it had been for many years as part of this natural cycle. Professional astronomers did a lot of work on this and concluded that the dimming was caused by material being spewed out from this supergiant star that blocked the light essentially coming out of the star, and hence that's why it dipped. And eventually the dusty material, dusty matter, dispersed and it came back to normal. So Betelgeuse isn't the only star that's gone through a great dimming or a great fainting or whatever people want to call it. Another one this year has been doing a similar thing. This is the hypergiant star. It's an orange or yellow hypergiant RW Cephei, which is thought to be one of the largest stars in the galaxy. It normally undergoes its slow, gradual variations, but this year it underwent this great dimming, as you can see in the light curve on the right at the end part of last year and the early part of this year. And recently a paper was published using interferometry, infrared interferometry, that was able to image the actual disk, the surface of the star, as you can see in the diagrams there. And they concluded that again material had been spewed out from the star, causing the dimming. So quite remarkable that two stars underwent a similar phenomenon in a similar time frame. It's also in a very RW Cephei is in a very beautiful region, so it's attracted the attention of imagers, and you can see the H2 region that is nearby on the right of that picture there. Miras, so remarkable occurrence in S Corona Borealis. Why are all the stars in Corona Borealis at the moment? So you can see it's a fairly regular light curve in that the period is around 300 days on average. I noticed our first observation in our database goes back to 1846. Joseph Baxendale, one of our great observers from former days. It so happened that it has recently undergone its brightest phase ever. You can see that in the last rise on the right, a significantly brighter maximum than it has had in history. So novae, one of the novae that has caused a lot of interest is Nova Cass, that went off, erupted in the middle of March 2021. It attracted a lot of attention for a number of reasons. It got bright, so you could see it in binoculars for a long period of time. It was circumpolar, so it was very easy to observe every night of the year. But it also attracted the attention of imagers because it's in such a beautiful, rich field. You can see for Nick's nodding away here. The deep sky section observers here, it's the Bubble Nebula is a very, very attractive field. It's still around. It's still brighter than its quiescence brightness, already 2.5 years since the eruption. And you can see the light curve is very complex, especially in the first few months. Lots of ups and downs. This was a very a slow, dusty nova that caused these ups and downs. So again, that generated interest and kept people interested enough to continue to observe it, because very often people stop observing after the initial eruption of a nova. This one people are still observing, and that's the light curve as of earlier this week. It's now about magnitude 12.5. It's one of the stars that has attracted a lot of attention from our spectroscopists. A very early spectrum there on the second night after detection by David Boyd. And there's been a whole series of I find them very beautiful spectrograms taken by Mike Harlow using an objective prism. You can see, well, perhaps you can't actually, but this is a spectrum of the nova here with the emission, the hydrogen emission lines, and these are other stars in the field. And Mike has been using this technique to monitor the change in those lines, as have our other spectroscopists.
It's still bright enough to get spectra.
It's still bright enough, yeah. So 12.5. That's still within range. Yeah, good. So because I think the quiescence is around 15 something, so it's still got quite a way to go to follow that down. We've had a couple of exciting events in the field of recurrent novae. So RS Ophiuchi erupted in 2021 in the summer, first eruption for 16 years, and delighted many observers for the few days that it was around. It was fortunately occurred at a time when the field was very well placed. Binocular object, again, attracting a lot of interest. Another recurrent nova that erupted in 2022 was U Scorpii. So pretty low for us at these northerly magnitudes, but it occurred in June, which was very convenient and polite of it to go off at that time of year, and again generated lots of interest. So the next one that's going to go off, I think I can be fairly confident about that, is T Corona Borealis. There's a lot of excitement about when this might happen. The latest predictions, as you may know, are sometime between February and August next year, although a paper was published earlier this week where they're punting for January. So this is a key one to keep observing. It's fascinating because since 2015 it's been in a superactive state. That ended back end of last year, earlier this year, and it started this fade And we know from previous eruptions that it undergoes a fade, first detected by Leslie Peltier, the American amateur astronomer, so I call it the Peltier dip. And when it gets to the minimum, that's a 3-month warning, so we think, for the next eruption. So keep watching this, especially as it's getting harder to observe as the years go on. A little bit about variable star section communications. There's a lot of material that we put out there, and we hope you enjoy reading much of this material. So we have the circulars, 4 of those a year. One was distributed only on Thursday, I think it was. So thanks very much to Gary for editing this, but also thank you for those that contribute. And what I would like to say is, please, we do need more contributions. Don't feel you need to write something of scientific worth or merit. That's great to have, but it'd be also good to have some informal articles about, what's your favourite variable star? What do you like doing in variable star observing? Tell us about your telescope, your techniques, or whatever. I think other members would like to read about that. So please contribute and send articles to Gary. In the circulars, another milestone that has been achieved thanks to Chris Lloyd is that the scientific papers, articles in it, are now available for many of the past editions, are now available through the NASA astrophysical data system. So people can read our articles online, and professionals have access to those. We also have the variable star section web pages that are updated regularly by Gary. We have the Facebook, led by Tracy Hayward. We have the alert group, which is for alerting members of either significant variable star events or variable star section activities, like this meeting. And also, I try and get an article in every BAA journal edition concerning an activity of the variable star section to keep the interest going. Another publication that's come out recently is the revised Eclipsing Binary Observing Guide. This has been published by Des and is available free for download as a PDF or for purchase through the BAA shop. Photometry database, so that's going great guns thanks to Andy. We currently have over 4 million observations in the database. Slightly more than half of those are visual observations. What do you think is the most observed star in the database? Got it in one. two years ago, it was R Corona Borealis, so I thought that was a bit of a trick question, but it's SS Sig is the most common. I have at the bottom some statistics for the last year ending 31st of July, and indeed, the most visually observed star was R Corona Borealis, and the most digitally observed star was CG Draconis. We also have the spectroscopy database that currently has over 12,000 variable star objects within it. And in the last year, the most observed, or the one with the greatest number of spectra in the database, is Alpha Camelopardalis. I try and keep some observing campaigns going because people have said to me that they do like specific objects to follow and maybe some challenges. So we've had a few of those in the last 3. HSO 229 is a dwarf nova that's almost constantly going into outbursts, but not a full outburst. It's a kind of stunted outburst. HR Lyrae is an old nova that we've been monitoring. CG Draconis, whose light curve is here, is a dwarf nova that erupts around every 10 days or so, so it's a very frequent eruptor. But it undergoes these normal outbursts, and every few months it undergoes a bright outburst, so it's about half a magnitude brighter, and the eruption of the outburst lasts longer. And that all these have been written up either in the BAA journal or the CG Draconis was published in Astronomische Nachrichten at the turn of the year. We have a campaign still going on, led by Stuart Bin, on Ursa Majoris stars, which are a subclass of dwarf novae that undergo very frequent super outbursts. And what we're trying to do is measure or monitor the change in the super cycle length, so the time between super outbursts there. So that's one that you'd be most welcome to contribute to. More details in the circular, and some of the stars are listed here. And of course, the campaign that's going on at the moment is on T Corona Borealis that I've already mentioned. You might have seen in the current circular and copy of the journal that there's an exciting development in the new remote telescope system. Is Maxim Yusutov here? No, he's not. He wasn't sure whether he could get here. So Max is one of our members, and he's done actually a large amount of the photometry on CG Draconis using his remote telescope in Spain. And this is now going to be a commercial venture for him, but he has kindly allocated time to the BAA free of charge, where members can suggest projects that they would like to work on. It's still in the very early stages of rolling this out, but if you do have a project or star that you'd like to observe, then the person to contact in the first place is the President, David Arditi. But it's a very fine instrument capable of very, very precise photometry. I'd like to thank my fellow officers of the variable star section, without whom this section would not exist. We have a number of different subsections, as you can see, but also a lot of other roles and responsibilities. And I'd just like to thank my colleagues for all the hard work that they do day in, day out in support of the section. But the section would be nothing, of course, without our observers. So what I've done here is gone into the database and listed all the observers that have contributed observations into our database since August 2020, so effectively the last 3 years. Hopefully, everybody who has contributed can see their name there. Otherwise, we'll have a word with Andy as to why that isn't the case. But it's in the end, I did count. Sorry. So that's very good. These are photometry. No, this is the photometry database. Yeah. So one thing on the database, by the way, it is uploaded very regularly to the AAVSO database. So all our observations then become available to any observer or any researcher around the world. So that's a bit of a run through around the section activities. I'm really proud of the fact that we are a very active section, not only in observing but also in analysing the data that are generated. So that leads on to today's programme. Very varied list of speakers. I won't run through them all now. I'll introduce each one in turn. At least I'll introduce this morning's speakers, and Gary will kindly chair this afternoon's session.